Sunday lunch at my parents' house in suburban Phoenix. Mom sets down her famous pot roast and drops the bombshell about my sister Amanda losing her marketing job. Dad immediately backs her up with his family helps family speech. The expectation hangs heavy that I, the stable one with a good tech job, will financially rescue my 25-year-old sister who has never learned responsibility. I smile calmly and deliver my response that will shatter their assumptions about my willingness to enable her destructive patterns. Great, then she can move in with you, because I'm not covering anyone's bills, but my own. The silence that followed my words could have been cut with a knife. My mother's fork clattered against her plate pot roast, forgotten while my father's face darkened to the color of Arizona clay. I'm Cato, 28 years old, and I'd been dreading this conversation for months. Working as a software engineer at a renewable energy startup in Tempe, I'd built the stable life my family always expected from me. While Amanda partied her way through 2 years at Arizona State, before dropping out, I worked nights at a campus bookstore to pay tuition. While she bounced between retail jobs at Fashion Square Mall, complaining about unreasonable managers and difficult customers, I earned my computer science degree and landed my first real job. At 26, I'd saved enough to buy a small house in a quiet neighborhood near downtown Phoenix. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, nothing fancy but mine. No roommates, no parents, no drama. Just peace air conditioning that worked, and a garage where I restored vintage motorcycles on weekends. But Amanda's latest crisis threatened all of that. "Cato, honey," Mom said, her voice taking on that pleading tone I remembered from childhood arguments. "Amanda is family. She's struggling right now and needs our support. Our support or my wallet." I asked, cutting another piece of pot roast. The meat was perfectly tender, just like every Sunday for the past decade. Some traditions never changed, even when others crumbled. Dad leaned forward, his weathered hands clasped together. 30 years managing a construction crew in the desert heat had given him strong opinions about responsibility and family loyalty. "Son, when I was your age, family meant something. We took care of our own. I am taking care of my own," I replied evenly. "Myself." The truth was, Amanda's pattern of financial emergencies wasn't new. 6 months earlier, she'd called me sobbing about needing $3,000 for car repairs. Her Honda Civic had supposedly broken down, leaving her stranded without transportation to work. Against my better judgment, I'd transferred the money that same afternoon. The car repairs turned out to be a payment on a trip to San Diego with her friends. I discovered this when she posted Instagram photos from La Jolla beaches while supposedly dealing with mechanics. When confronted, she claimed the photos were old, then switched to saying she deserved a break after her stressful car troubles. The $3,000 vanished into restaurant bills, hotel rooms, and shopping sprees. Not a single penny was repaid. "Where is Amanda anyway?" I asked, noting her convenient absence from this family financial planning session. "She's having a rough time, sweetie," Mom said, dabbing her eyes with a napkin. "She didn't want to burden you with the details, but she's been let go from her job at the marketing firm. Budget cuts, they said. Nothing she could do about it." I pulled out my phone to check the time, and that's when I saw it. A Venmo notification received just 20 minutes ago. Amanda Rose Martinez had charged $200 to my account, with the memo, "Emergency drinks with Sarah and Jess. We'll pay back tomorrow. Love you." My stomach dropped. Somehow, Amanda had gotten access to my Venmo account and linked it to her phone. The charge came from Olive and Ivy, an upscale restaurant in Scottsdale, where drinks started at $15 each. "Mom, Dad," I said, turning my phone screen toward them. "Does this look like someone who's desperately unemployed and struggling?" My mother's face went pale as she read the notification. My father's jaw tightened, but he maintained his stern expression. "Maybe she needed to network," Dad said weakly. "Sometimes you have to spend money to make money." At 2 in the afternoon on a Sunday, while we're sitting here planning her financial rescue, I stood up from the table, my appetite completely gone. This isn't networking, Dad. This is theft. Mom started crying, then quiet tears that she tried to hide behind her napkin. Growing up, those tears had always been my kryptonite, the thing that made me give in when Amanda got in trouble at school or needed money for spring break. But not today. I worked 60-hour weeks to afford my life. I said, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. I save money. I pay my bills on time. I don't ask anyone for anything. And now, you want me to subsidize someone who just spent $200 of my money while we discuss how broke she is. It's not about the money, Mom whispered. It's absolutely about the money, I replied. And it's about respect and honesty and taking responsibility for your choices. My phone buzzed again. Another Venmo notification, this one for $50 with the memo, Uber home. So tired from job hunting. The manipulation had already begun before this family meeting even happened. Amanda knew exactly what she was doing, spending my money while positioning herself as the victim who needed saving. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. This entire Sunday lunch intervention was orchestrated theater with me, cast as the villain, if I refused to play my assigned role as family ATM. I screenshot both Venmo charges and forwarded them to my parents before sitting back down. Dad's construction worker hands, usually steady enough to frame a house in triple-digit heat, trembled slightly as he held my mother's iPhone. $250 while we're discussing her desperate financial situation, I said. Still think this is about unemployment. Mom collapsed into fresh tears, but they felt different now. Less manipulative, more genuine shock. I don't understand. She said she was home looking for work online. She lied, Mom, just like she's been lying about everything else. Dad set down the phone and rubbed his temples. At 55, he'd built houses across the Phoenix Valley, managed crews of difficult workers, and dealt with demanding clients. But Amanda's deception had blindsided him completely. Maybe there's an explanation, he said, though his voice lacked conviction. The front door slammed and we all jumped. Amanda's voice echoed from the entryway, slightly slurred and overly cheerful. Family meeting without me? That's so rude. She appeared in the dining room doorway, designer sunglasses perched on her head, despite being indoors wearing a flowing sundress that definitely hadn't come from Target. Her cheeks were flushed, and she swayed slightly as she grabbed the doorframe for balance. Amanda Rose Martinez. Dad's voice carried that edge that used to make me straighten up as a kid. Explain these charges to your brother's account. She glanced at my phone screen and shrugged with exaggerated innocence. Oh, that. I told him I'd pay it back tomorrow. God, Cato, you're so uptight about everything. I never gave you permission to access my accounts, I said quietly. You gave me your Venmo info when I paid you back for dinner last month, she said, plopping into her usual chair across from me. I just figured since we were family, it wouldn't be a big deal for a tiny emergency loan. The dinner she referenced had cost $35. She'd Venmo'd me $18 and promised to pay the rest later. I never saw the remaining $17, and now I understood why she'd insisted on handling the payment herself. So you just helped yourself, I said. Whatever. I'll pay it back when I get my unemployment benefits. She reached for Dad's water glass and took a long drink. Besides, isn't that why we're here? Mom said you were going to help me through this rough patch. Mom and Dad exchanged looks. Clearly, Amanda had already been told I'd agreed to financial support, despite this being the first I'd heard of any such arrangement. Explain to me how you lost your job, I said. Amanda's story poured out with practiced ease. Her supervisor, Marcus, had been targeting her for months because she was young and attractive and threatening to his authority. He nitpicked her work, criticized her creative ideas, and created a hostile environment. When budget cuts came, he made sure she was the first to go, despite being one of their best performers. It was totally unfair. She continued, her voice rising with indignation. I brought in 3 major clients last quarter, but Marcus took credit for all my work. Then, when corporate started asking questions about missed deadlines, he threw me under the bus. The story sounded compelling, full of workplace drama and innocent victimhood. But something nagged at me. Amanda had always been an excellent storyteller, capable of weaving narratives that painted her in the best possible light, while shifting blame to convenient villains. "What was the name of the marketing firm again?" I asked. "Creative Solutions Marketing," she replied without hesitation. "Downtown Phoenix on Central Avenue." "And Marcus was your direct supervisor?" "Marcus Chen, creative director. Total narcissist who couldn't handle working with someone more talented than him." I made a mental note of the details, while Amanda continued outlining her desperate financial situation. $8,000 monthly in combined expenses, $1,500 for rent, $400 for car payments, $600 for credit card minimums, $1,200 for student loans and various other necessities. Without income, she'd be homeless within weeks. "It would just be temporary," she promised, looking directly at me with wide, sincere eyes. "2 months maximum while I find something new. And I'll pay everything back with interest once I'm working again." Dad nodded approvingly. "That sounds reasonable, son. Family helps family get back on their feet." Mom reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "You've always been so responsible, honey. Amanda just needs a little guidance to get back on track." I excused myself to use the bathroom, and instead stepped onto the back patio to make a phone call. Creative Solutions Marketing had a website with a contact number. I dialed expecting voicemail on a Sunday afternoon, but a receptionist answered. "Hi, I'm calling to verify employment for Amanda Martinez," I said in my most professional voice. "She's listed you as her previous employer for a rental application." "One moment, please." The phone went quiet for 30 seconds. "I'm sorry, but Amanda Martinez was terminated for cause 3 weeks ago. We cannot provide employment verification." "Terminated for cause?" "I can't discuss details, but it wasn't a layoff or budget reduction. Have a good afternoon." The line went dead. I stared at my phone pieces clicking into place. Amanda hadn't been laid off due to budget cuts. She'd been fired for something serious enough that the company wouldn't even verify her employment. And she'd been unemployed for 3 weeks while continuing her normal spending patterns, funded by emergency loans from family members she claimed to keep in the dark about her situation. When I returned to the dining room, Amanda was showing Mom pictures on her phone of an apartment complex across town. "It's perfect," she was saying. "1 bedroom, great location, and the deposit is only $1,200. I've already put in an application." "Amanda," I said, sitting back down, "how long ago did you lose your job?" "Last Friday," she replied without looking up from her phone. "Just like I told you. And you've already found a new apartment." "I have to move fast in this market. Good places get snatched up immediately." Dad reached for his checkbook. "Son, why don't you cover the deposit, and your mother and I will help with the monthly rent until Amanda gets back on her feet." I watched in horror as he wrote a check for $1,200 made out to Desert Palms Apartments. In Dad's mind, this was settled. Amanda would move into her new place, I'd cover her bills, and family harmony would be restored. "I already told the landlord that her brother would be covering expenses," Mom added cheerfully. "They were so impressed that Amanda has such strong family support." Amanda smiled triumphantly, tucking Dad's check into her purse. "Thanks, Daddy. I knew you'd understand how important family is." I realized then that this entire Sunday lunch had been orchestrated performance art. Amanda had already secured the apartment, convinced my parents to co-sign her financial rescue plan, and spent my money on celebration drinks. The only surprise was my refusal to play along with the predetermined script. But as I sat there watching my family plan my financial enslavement, I wondered what other lies Amanda had told, and how deep this deception actually went. Monday morning at the office, I couldn't concentrate on debugging code. My mind kept replaying Sunday's conversation and Amanda's carefully constructed sob story. During my lunch break, I decided to do some investigating. I called Creative Solutions Marketing again this time, asking to speak with Marcus Chen directly. "Marcus, this is Cato Martinez. I'm Amanda Martinez's brother. I was hoping to ask you a few questions about her employment. Oh, his voice carried surprise and something that sounded like relief. Actually, I'm glad you called. Amanda listed you as an emergency contact, and I've been meaning to reach out. Emergency contact for what? Her termination paperwork. We need her to return company equipment and sign final documents, but she's not responding to calls or emails. Marcus explained that Amanda hadn't been laid off or fired due to budget cuts. She'd been terminated after a series of performance issues that escalated over several months. Chronic lateness, missing important client meetings, incomplete projects submitted past deadline, and finally a screaming match with Marcus in front of the entire creative team when he asked her to redo a campaign that failed to meet basic client requirements. She was on formal probation for 90 days, Marcus said. We gave her every opportunity to improve, but the behavior just got worse. The final incident was unprofessional to the point where we had no choice. What happened? A client presentation that Amanda was supposed to prepare. She showed up 20 minutes late with nothing ready, then tried to blame our project management system for not sending her reminders. When I pulled her aside afterward, she accused me of sabotaging her career and started yelling that I was discriminating against her because she was young and attractive. Marcus paused, clearly uncomfortable discussing personnel issues. Look, I don't like firing people, especially someone with Amanda's potential, but she made it impossible. The whole team was walking on eggshells, and clients were starting to notice problems. How long ago was this? 3 weeks. We even offered to let her resign instead of being terminated, but she refused and demanded to speak to corporate HR about wrongful termination. That conversation lasted about 5 minutes once they reviewed her file. After hanging up, I sat in my car, feeling sick. Amanda had been lying to our family for 3 weeks, maintaining her normal spending patterns, while unemployment funds and family guilt trips, the job hunt story, the evil supervisor narrative, even the timeline, all carefully crafted fiction. That evening, Amanda showed up at my house unannounced. I lived in a quiet neighborhood near downtown Phoenix, close enough to work that I could bike when the weather wasn't trying to kill everything alive. My small front yard featured desert landscaping and a single mesquite tree that provided afternoon shade. Surprise! Amanda called out, letting herself in with the spare key I'd hidden under a fake rock for emergencies. I brought Thai food to celebrate my first day of apartment hunting. She'd changed clothes since yesterday, now wearing expensive-looking jeans and a top that probably cost more than my monthly electric bill. Her hair was professionally styled, and her nails showed fresh manicuring work. How much did all that cost? I asked, gesturing at her appearance. What looking professional for job interviews, Cato? You have to invest in yourself to get ahead in today's market. She settled onto my couch with takeout containers, making herself comfortable in my space. Over pad thai and spring rolls, Amanda outlined her apartment hunting progress and financial needs. Beyond the deposit, Dad had already written, she needed first month's rent, utility deposits, furniture money, and grocery allowances. Just until I find something, she promised. I have 3 interviews lined up this week. What companies? She rattled off names of local marketing firms and advertising agencies. When I asked for specifics about interview times and contact information, her answers became vague and evasive. You don't trust me, she said with wounded surprise. Should I? I'm your sister Cato. Family is supposed to support each other unconditionally. Support and enabling are different things. Amanda's expression hardened briefly, before softening back into hurt innocence. Fine. I can see you've already made up your mind about me. But when I'm successful again, and you need something, remember this conversation. She left the Thai food containers on my coffee table and stormed out, taking my spare key with her. I should have asked for it back, but conflict avoidance had always been my weakness where family was concerned. The next morning, my phone rang at 7 a.m. Amanda's voice was panicked and tearful. Cato, I need help. Someone broke into my car last night and stole my laptop bag. All my resume files, my portfolio, my interview notes. Everything is gone. Did you call the police? They said without serial numbers or photos of the stolen items, there's nothing they can do. And my insurance deductible is $500 that I don't have. She needed money immediately to replace her laptop and rebuild her job search materials. Another emergency requiring immediate family financial intervention. Where did this happen? Outside a coffee shop in Scottsdale where I was meeting a potential networking contact. I asked which coffee shop, but her description was oddly vague. When I offered to drive over and look at the scene, she quickly explained that she'd already left the area and couldn't remember the exact location. Something about the story felt wrong, but I couldn't pinpoint exactly what. Amanda had always been unlucky, always finding herself victimized by circumstances beyond her control. Bad bosses, dishonest mechanics, unreliable friends, criminal strangers. Drama seemed to follow her everywhere. That afternoon, I received an unexpected visitor at work. A woman about Amanda's age approached the reception desk, asking to speak with me urgently about a family matter. "I'm Sarah's friend Jessica," she explained when I met her in the lobby. "I think there are some things you should know about your sister." Jessica had been Amanda's coworker at Creative Solutions Marketing and occasionally socialized with her after work. She felt guilty staying silent, but couldn't watch Amanda manipulate her family any longer. "Amanda wasn't fired for performance issues," Jessica said quietly. "She quit." "What do you mean?" 3 weeks before her termination, Amanda told me she was planning to quit and move back in with family while she figured out her next step. She said working was stupid when she could just guilt-trip relatives into supporting her lifestyle. Jessica explained that Amanda had researched unemployment benefits and discovered she could claim wrongful termination to extend her financial runway. The performance issues were real, but Amanda had deliberately escalated conflicts with Marcus to create a paper trail supporting her victimization narrative. "She planned the whole thing," Jessica said. "The screaming match, the accusations, the refusal to resign quietly. She wanted to be fired so she could play victim to your family." My stomach dropped as pieces fell into place. The perfectly timed family meeting, the pre-selected apartment, the assumption that I'd already agreed to financial support. Amanda had orchestrated every element of her rescue scenario before losing her job. "There's more," Jessica continued. "Amanda has been bragging to mutual friends about her foolproof family manipulation plan. She said your parents are easy marks, and you're too guilty about family loyalty to refuse helping." As Jessica spoke, I realized my sister hadn't just lost her job. She'd engineered her own termination as part of a calculated scheme to extract money from relatives while avoiding the responsibilities of employment. The laptop theft, the urgent financial crises, even her appearance at my house. All carefully scripted manipulation designed to maintain control of the narrative while maximizing family guilt. Standing in my office lobby, listening to Jessica describe Amanda's premeditated deception, I felt something shift inside me. My sister wasn't struggling, or overwhelmed, or victimized by circumstances. She was running a con game with our family as marks, and she'd been planning it for months. Wednesday evening, I drove to Desert Palms Apartments to confirm Amanda's housing situation. The complex was upscale, far beyond what someone facing genuine financial hardship should consider. Units started at $1,800 monthly, not including utilities or amenities fees. At the leasing office, I introduced myself as Amanda's brother and explained that I was considering guaranteeing her lease. The manager, a polished woman named Carol, seemed relieved to see me. "Oh, good," Carol said, pulling up Amanda's file. "She said you'd be handling all financial matters since she's between jobs. The deposit cleared, but we still need income verification or a cosigner for the monthly payments." "What income information did Amanda provide?" Carol showed me the application. Amanda had listed her status as unemployed due to layoffs and indicated that her brother would be providing financial support. Under employment history, she'd claimed to have worked at Creative Solutions Marketing until the previous Friday, exactly the timeline she'd given our parents. "Has she moved in yet?" Yesterday afternoon. She seemed eager to get settled quickly. I asked to see the apartment Amanda had rented. Carol led me across the complex to a ground-floor unit with a small patio facing the community pool. Through sliding glass doors, I could see moving boxes stacked in the living room and new furniture still in packaging. How did she afford furniture? I asked. Oh, she mentioned having excellent credit and family support for setup costs. Very responsible young woman. When I returned home, I found Amanda waiting in my driveway leaning against a Honda Civic that definitely wasn't the one she'd claimed needed expensive repairs 6 months earlier. New car? I asked. Lease replacement, she said casually. The other one was costing too much in maintenance. She followed me inside, immediately making herself comfortable on my couch. Her entire demeanor had shifted from desperate victim to confident young woman who expected accommodation to her needs. I wanted to thank you for helping with the apartment, she said. Mom explained that you'd committed to covering my expenses until I find work. Mom explained wrong. Amanda's smile faltered slightly. What do you mean? I mean, I never agreed to support you financially. That was decided without consulting me. But family helps family, right? That's what Dad always taught us. I sat down across from her, studying my sister's face. She was 25 years old, intelligent, capable, and completely comfortable lying to people who loved her. Amanda, why did you really lose your job? I told you, budget cuts and a toxic supervisor. I spoke with Marcus Chen. He explained the real situation. For just a moment, Amanda's mask slipped. I saw calculation behind her eyes, rapid assessment of how much I knew, and what story might still work. Marcus is lying to cover his own management failures, she said smoothly. He knows he created a hostile work environment and is trying to avoid HR complaints. What about Jessica? She says you planned the whole thing. Amanda's expression hardened. Jessica is jealous because I was better at the job than her. She's trying to sabotage my reputation. Every accusation was deflected with counterattacks against her accuser's motives. Amanda had become expert at constructing alternative narratives that painted herself as victim of elaborate conspiracies rather than consequences of her own choices. Show me your bank statements, I said. Excuse me. If you're genuinely broke and desperate, show me your financial records. Amanda's phone buzzed with notifications, but she quickly silenced it. Through the brief screen glimpse, I saw multiple Venmo transactions from the past 24 hours. My finances are private, Cato. I don't need to prove anything to you. You do if you want my money. She stood up abruptly, her carefully maintained composure finally cracking. Fine. I can see you've turned against me just like everyone else. But when Mom and Dad find out you're abandoning family, don't expect them to forgive you. After Amanda left, I called my parents to arrange another family meeting. Mom sounded tired when she answered, and Dad was clearly frustrated by the ongoing drama. Can't you just help your sister get back on her feet? Dad asked when we gathered at their house Thursday evening. It's not permanent, and she's learned her lesson about responsibility. What lesson? She's been unemployed for 3 weeks while lying to us about the timeline. She was fired for performance issues after planning her own termination. And she's been bragging to friends about manipulating us. I laid out everything Jessica had told me, plus my conversation with Marcus, and my visit to Amanda's expensive apartment complex. Mom listened in shocked silence, while Dad's expression grew increasingly dark. These people are lying, Amanda said when confronted with evidence. They're jealous of our close family relationship and trying to turn you against me. All of them, I asked. Your former supervisor, your coworker, the apartment manager who confirmed your lies about employment status. Amanda's response was a masterpiece of deflection and victim blaming. Marcus was covering up his own incompetence. Jessica was sabotaging her professionally out of jealousy. The apartment manager had misunderstood information provided under stress. Every piece of evidence was dismissed with explanations that grew increasingly implausible. I can't believe my own family is choosing to believe strangers over me, she concluded with perfect wounded sincerity. Mom started crying again, overwhelmed by competing narratives and family conflict. Dad looked exhausted, caught between his daughter's tears and mounting evidence of her deception. That's when I realized Amanda hadn't just been manipulating me. She'd been systematically working our parents for weeks, laying groundwork for this financial rescue operation. Dad's check for the apartment deposit wasn't spontaneous generosity. It was the culmination of careful manipulation, designed to create financial commitments before I could object. "How long have you been planning this?" I asked directly. Amanda's answer came in the form of sudden tears and accusations that I was being cruel to someone already suffering. But her phone buzzing constantly with notifications throughout our conversation told a different story. When she stepped outside to take a call, I watched through the window as her tearful victim persona disappeared instantly. She was laughing, animated, clearly not distressed about her family's rejection of her manipulation. Returning to the living room, Amanda announced that she'd received a job interview for the following morning and needed to prepare. Her transformation back to confident professional happened seamlessly, like an actress stepping out of character between scenes. After she left, Mom and Dad sat in stunned silence. "I don't understand," Mom whispered. "When did our daughter become someone we don't recognize?" But I was beginning to understand perfectly. Amanda hadn't become someone new. She'd always been a manipulator, but her targets had evolved from teachers and friends to family members with resources she wanted. The difference was scale and sophistication, not fundamental character. That night, I installed security cameras around my house and changed all my passwords. If Amanda was willing to lie this extensively about employment and finances, I had no idea what other deceptions might be coming. I was about to find out. Friday afternoon, I left work early to install additional security measures around my house. The morning had been productive with breakthrough progress on a solar panel efficiency algorithm that could revolutionize residential energy systems. But personal concerns kept intruding on professional focus. Arriving home around 3 p.m., I immediately noticed my front door was slightly ajar. The deadbolt I always engaged was disengaged, and afternoon sunlight streamed through a gap that should never exist when nobody was home. I called out Amanda's name as I pushed the door open, expecting to find her inside with some elaborate explanation about emergency visits or forgotten items. Instead, I discovered her crouched behind my desk in the home office, frantically stuffing papers into a canvas bag. "What are you doing in my house?" Amanda jumped, scattering documents across the hardwood floor. Bank statements, tax returns, investment portfolios, and printed emails lay scattered around her feet, like evidence of financial espionage. "Cato, you scared me. I was just looking for something I left here." She stood quickly, trying to kick papers under my desk, but I could see bank routing numbers, account balances, and my social security number on various documents. "You were looking for something by going through my personal financial records." "I needed to know how much you could afford to help me," she said with desperate honesty. "Mom said you were being selfish, but I wanted to see if you really couldn't afford it, or if you were just being mean." In her canvas bag, I found copies of my driver's license, social security card, and utility bills. She'd also taken photos of my laptop screen, showing open banking websites. "Amanda, this is identity theft." "It's not theft if we're family," she protested. "I wasn't going to hurt you. I just needed to understand your financial situation." I checked my laptop's browser history. Amanda had accessed my bank accounts, investment portfolios, credit card statements, and even my work email. She'd attempted to transfer $5,000 from my savings account to an account I didn't recognize, but the transaction had been blocked by fraud protection protocols. "You tried to steal $5,000. "I tried to borrow money that you can clearly afford to lend," she corrected, as if semantics mattered more than reality. "Look at your bank balance, Cato. You have over $40,000 in savings, while your sister is facing homelessness." My phone rang. Bank of America's fraud department wanted to verify suspicious account activity detected 30 minutes earlier. Large transfer attempts, password changes, and login attempts from an unrecognized device had triggered automatic security measures. While I confirmed my identity and reported unauthorized access, Amanda continued defending her actions. She wasn't stealing. She was highlighting my selfishness by demonstrating my ability to help family in crisis. She wasn't violating my privacy. She was gathering information necessary to understand our family financial dynamics. "You always act so responsible and mature," she said, growing increasingly agitated. "But you're actually the selfish one. You have everything you need and more, but you won't share with family who raised you and supported you." Supported me how? By expecting me to work while you partied through college. By asking me to pay for your mistakes while you make more mistakes. Amanda's response was swift and physical. She grabbed my laptop and hurled it against the wall, where it shattered into expensive fragments of metal and circuitry. Then she swept my desk clear, sending papers, books, and family photos crashing to the floor. "I'm tired of being the failure while you get to be the success story," she screamed. "Everything always worked out for you because you're the favorite. Mom and Dad never expected me to be perfect like they expected from you." She kicked over my bookshelf, sending technical manuals and novels cascading across the room. Family photos in frames her destroyed, including irreplaceable pictures of our grandparents and childhood memories. "These stupid family pictures," she said, grinding broken glass under her heel. "Perfect Cato, with his perfect grades, and perfect job, and perfect house. Well, let's see how perfect everything is now." I moved toward my phone to call police, but Amanda blocked my path. "If you call the cops on your own sister, I'll tell everyone you attacked me first," she threatened. "I'll say you've been financially abusing me and physically threatening me when I asked for help." From her purse, she pulled out prescription bottles that didn't have her name on them. Pain medication, anxiety pills, ADHD stimulants, a collection of controlled substances obtained through unknown means. "Do you know how easy it would be to plant these in your house before police arrive?" she asked with frightening calm. "How would your perfect job and perfect reputation handle drug charges?" I realized Amanda wasn't just desperate or manipulative. She'd crossed into genuinely dangerous territory, willing to commit serious crimes to maintain control over her narrative. "Amanda, you need help." "I need money," she corrected. "And I need family who actually care about me instead of judging me." She grabbed my car keys from the kitchen counter and headed for the garage. I followed, trying to stop her from taking my vehicle, but she'd already started the engine. "Where are you going?" "To tell Mom and Dad exactly what kind of person their precious son really is," she called through the window. "Let's see how they feel about your financial selfishness when I explain how you've been sabotaging my job search and turning family against me." As she backed out of my driveway, I noticed neighbors watching from their yards. The commotion had been loud enough to attract attention from people walking dogs and checking mailboxes. Mrs. Patterson from next door approached with concern. "Cato, honey, is everything all right? We heard shouting and things breaking." "Family drama," I said, surveying the destruction visible through my open front door. "I need to call my insurance company." But first, I called my parents to warn them about Amanda's current state of mind and her threats to escalate family conflict. Dad answered on the second ring, his voice weary. "Son, Amanda just got here. She's crying and saying you physically attacked her when she tried to pick up belongings from your house." "Dad, don't believe anything she says right now. She broke into my house, tried to steal money from my bank account, and destroyed my property when I caught her. I have evidence of everything." "Evidence of what?" I explained the attempted bank transfer, the copied personal documents, and the prescription medications Amanda had threatened to plant in my house. Dad listened in silence, while Mom's voice rose in the background, alternating between soothing Amanda and expressing shock at my allegations. "This is getting out of hand," Dad said finally. "I don't know who to believe anymore." "Believe the evidence," I replied. "And Dad, don't let Amanda leave with anything valuable. She's not thinking clearly right now." That evening, I sat in my destroyed office cataloging damage for insurance claims and police reports. My laptop was beyond repair. Personal documents were scattered or missing. Family photos spanning decades were destroyed. The financial cost would be substantial, but the emotional damage felt worse. Amanda had escalated beyond manipulation and lies into theft, destruction, and threats. She'd violated my personal space, attempted to steal my identity, and shown willingness to commit serious crimes to get her way. More importantly, she'd threatened to frame me for drug possession if I reported her criminal behavior. The prescription bottles suggested connections to illegal drug networks or prescription fraud schemes that added new dimensions to her dangerous behavior. As I swept up broken glass and tried to salvage damaged belongings, I realized Amanda's financial crisis wasn't about unemployment or bad luck. It was about funding a lifestyle and possibly habits that required constant cash flow from sources she could manipulate or exploit. The game had changed completely. This wasn't family drama anymore. It was criminal behavior that required legal response. Saturday morning, I met with Patricia Williams, a criminal defense attorney specializing in financial crimes and family law. Her downtown Phoenix office occupied the 15th floor of a glass tower with panoramic views of the Sonoran Desert stretching toward distant mountains. "Your sister has committed multiple felonies," Patricia said after reviewing photos of my destroyed property and documentation of the attempted bank transfer. "Identity theft, computer fraud, breaking and entering, destruction of property, and potentially prescription drug trafficking." She explained that Amanda's collection of prescription medications suggested either prescription fraud schemes or connections to illegal drug distribution networks. Either scenario represented serious criminal activity beyond family manipulation. The threats to plant evidence and file false police reports add witness intimidation and obstruction of justice to the list. Patricia continued, "This isn't sibling rivalry anymore. This is a criminal pattern that requires legal response." We filed formal complaints with Phoenix Police Department and initiated investigations with my bank's fraud division. The attempted money transfer had triggered automatic monitoring systems that preserved detailed evidence of unauthorized account access. Monday morning, Detective Martinez from Phoenix PD's Financial Crimes Unit contacted me about Amanda's case. Ironically, he shared a last name with my family, but no relation to our dysfunction. "We see this pattern frequently," Detective Martinez explained. "Family members exploiting trust relationships to commit identity theft and financial fraud. The personal nature makes prosecution difficult, but the evidence in your case is unusually clear." Bank records showed Amanda had attempted multiple unauthorized transactions over several weeks, not just the $5,000 transfer I discovered. She'd tried to open credit cards using my information, apply for personal loans, and even attempted to access my work retirement account. "She's been systematically trying to assume your financial identity," the detective said. "This suggests planning and sophistication beyond typical family disputes." Meanwhile, my parents struggled with their own investigations into Amanda's deceptions. Dad called Tuesday evening with devastating news. "Son, we checked our own accounts after your warnings. Amanda has been forging our signatures on checks and using our credit cards without permission. The financial damage to my parents totaled over $8,000 in unauthorized charges and check fraud. Mom's identity had been used to apply for store credit cards that Amanda maxed out immediately. Dad's business account showed suspicious transfers to accounts they didn't recognize." "How long has this been going on?" I asked. "Months, apparently. Maybe longer. We trusted her completely and never monitored statements carefully." Wednesday morning brought another revelation. Jessica called my work number with urgent information about Amanda's extended criminal network. I didn't want to get involved, but I found out Amanda has been running similar scams on other families, Jessica said. "She meets guys through dating apps, gets information about their family financial situations, then targets siblings or parents with sob stories." According to Jessica, Amanda had detailed profiles of potential victims across 3 states, including family financial information, employment details, and emotional vulnerabilities she could exploit. "She keeps spreadsheets," Jessica said. Names, addresses, family dynamics, estimated wealth levels, best manipulation approaches. It's like a business plan for emotional fraud. The revelation expanded Amanda's crimes from family manipulation to organized fraud schemes targeting multiple victim families. Detective Martinez requested copies of any evidence Jessica could provide about these additional criminal activities. Thursday afternoon, I received a call from Sarah, my ex-girlfriend, who'd broken up with me due to family drama. Cato. I owe you an apology, Sarah said. I just found out your sister has been calling my friends and coworkers, spreading lies about you being financially abusive and emotionally unstable. Amanda had contacted Sarah's social circle with detailed stories about my supposedly controlling behavior and family violence. She described me as someone who manipulated family finances to maintain power over relatives, citing my refusal to help her as evidence of psychological abuse. I believed her because she seemed so sincere and had specific examples, Sarah continued. But then my friend Rachel mentioned that Amanda had asked for my work schedule and personal information, which seemed weird for someone just wanting to warn me about you. The character assassination campaign was designed to isolate me from potential support networks, while positioning Amanda as a victim of my abuse. If legal proceedings moved forward, she wanted to ensure that people in my life had been primed to doubt my credibility. Friday brought the first major breakthrough in the investigation. Bank fraud investigators discovered that Amanda's attempted access to my accounts had been conducted using sophisticated phishing software, typically associated with organized cybercrime networks. This isn't amateur hour, the bank investigator explained. Your sister either has connections to professional identity theft rings, or she's been trained in advanced fraud techniques. The software she'd used was designed specifically to bypass banking security measures and had been traced to criminal networks operating across multiple states. Amanda's activities suggested she was either working with or for organized crime groups specializing in family-based financial fraud. Saturday evening, Detective Martinez called with news that changed everything. We arrested your sister this afternoon, he said. She's being charged with multiple felonies related to your case, plus additional charges related to other victims we've identified. Amanda had been caught attempting to use fraudulent identification to open bank accounts in other people's names. When police searched her apartment, they found extensive documentation of fraud schemes targeting dozens of families across Arizona, New Mexico, and California. This appears to be her full-time occupation, Detective Martinez continued. We're talking about organized criminal activity involving hundreds of thousands of dollars in losses to victims nationwide. The investigation revealed that Amanda's unemployment wasn't recent bad luck. She'd been running fraud schemes as her primary income source for over 2 years. Her various jobs had been covers for gathering personal information about coworkers and their families, which she then used for identity theft and financial manipulation. Sunday morning, I sat in my restored office, surrounded by new furniture and equipment purchased with insurance settlements. The physical damage had been repaired, but the emotional impact would take longer to process. My phone rang. Mom's voice was quiet, defeated. The FBI wants to interview us about Amanda's activities, she said. They think she's part of a larger criminal organization that specializes in targeting families. Are you okay, Mom? I don't understand how we missed all the signs, she whispered. Our own daughter was living a completely different life than what she told us. We enabled a criminal for years without knowing it. As I looked out my window at the peaceful desert landscape, I realized Amanda's arrest was just the beginning of a much larger process. Legal proceedings, victim restitution, family healing, and rebuilding trust would take time and effort. But for the first time in months, I felt something approaching relief. The manipulation had ended. The lies were exposed. Justice was beginning. 3 months later, I sat in Superior Court of Arizona as Amanda faced sentencing for multiple felony convictions. The courtroom was filled with other victims and their families, a testament to the scope of her criminal enterprise. Federal prosecutors had built an overwhelming case. Amanda's apartment search had yielded computers containing detailed victim profiles, forged documents, and correspondence with other members of an interstate fraud ring. Her activities had generated over $300,000 in losses across 47 victim families. The defendant showed sophisticated criminal planning and callous disregard for the emotional and financial welfare of victims, Judge Harrison stated during sentencing. Many of these victims were her own family members who trusted her completely. Amanda received 18 months in federal prison, plus 3 years supervised probation. She was ordered to pay full restitution to all victims, including the $8,000 stolen from our parents and the property damage at my house. During her victim impact statement opportunity, Amanda finally dropped her manipulation tactics. No tears, no sob stories, no blame shifting. She simply acknowledged her crimes and apologized to the families she'd harmed. "I became addicted to easy money and the thrill of successful manipulation," she said quietly. "I justified everything by telling myself that my victims could afford the losses, but I know now how much pain I caused." The court mandated addiction counseling, financial management classes, and mental health treatment as conditions of her probation. Amanda would also be prohibited from accessing social media or dating apps without supervision, preventing her from targeting new victims. After sentencing, I met my parents for lunch at their favorite restaurant near South Mountain. Dad looked older, but more peaceful than he had in months. Mom's stress-related health issues had improved significantly since Amanda's arrest ended the financial manipulation. "I keep thinking about all the signs we missed," Mom said over chicken fried steak. "The expensive clothes, the new cars, the constant emergencies that required money." "She was good at what she did," I replied. "Professional criminals spend years perfecting manipulation techniques. We weren't equipped to recognize sophisticated fraud." Dad reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Son, I owe you an apology for pressuring you to enable her behavior. You saw what was happening before we did." "Family loyalty isn't the same as family enabling," I said. "It took me a while to understand the difference too." The financial recovery process was surprisingly smooth. Federal investigations had frozen Amanda's accounts and seized assets purchased with stolen money. Most victims, including our family, recovered significant portions of their losses through restitution orders and asset forfeiture proceedings. 6 months post-sentencing, I received an unexpected letter from Amanda in federal prison. Her handwriting was different, neater, more controlled, and her tone had evolved from manipulation to genuine reflection. "I've been in addiction counseling and financial crimes therapy for 4 months now," she wrote. "For the first time, I understand that my behavior wasn't just criminal. It was a way of avoiding adult responsibilities while maintaining a lifestyle I hadn't earned." She described daily routines in minimum security prison educational programs she was completing, and plans for legitimate employment upon release. No requests for money or assistance, no attempts to minimize her crimes or shift blame. "I know it will take years to rebuild family trust, if that's even possible," the letter continued. "But I wanted you to know that I finally understand the difference between taking responsibility and playing victim." A year after Amanda's conviction, Sarah and I reconciled. She'd realized the extent of Amanda's manipulation and felt terrible about believing lies designed to destroy our relationship. "I should have trusted you more than I trusted someone I barely knew," Sarah said over dinner at our favorite restaurant in Tempe. "Amanda was incredibly convincing, but that doesn't excuse my lack of faith in you." We took our relationship slowly, rebuilding trust and communication that had been damaged by external manipulation. Sarah attended family counseling sessions with us, learning about healthy boundary setting and manipulation recognition. 18 months after Amanda's sentencing, I received a call from her probation officer. Amanda had been released early for good behavior and was requesting family contact to begin making amends. She's completed all court-mandated programs and has maintained steady employment at a nonprofit organization, the officer explained. Her counselors believe she's made genuine progress, but the family contact has to be voluntary. My parents had already agreed to supervised visits, eager to rebuild relationships with their daughter. I was more cautious, requiring additional conditions, including continued counseling and total transparency about financial activities. Our first post-prison family dinner was awkward but hopeful. Amanda looked different, healthier, more grounded, less artificially polished. She worked as an administrative assistant for a homeless services nonprofit, earning honest money while helping other people rebuild their lives. "I know this will take time," Amanda said, as we shared Mom's famous pot roast at their dining room table. "But I want to prove that people can actually change if they do the work." She outlined her ongoing recovery plan: weekly addiction counseling, monthly financial management meetings, quarterly check-ins with victim advocacy groups, and volunteer work with organizations that helped fraud victims recover. "I'm not asking for immediate forgiveness or trust," she continued. "I'm asking for the chance to demonstrate consistent, honest behavior over time." 2 years after Amanda's release, our family relationships had evolved into something healthier than they'd ever been. Mom and Dad had learned to distinguish between helping and enabling. Amanda had learned to earn what she wanted through legitimate work. I'd learned that loving family members sometimes means refusing to enable destructive behavior. Amanda now manages a victim services program for the nonprofit organization, where she began as an administrative assistant. Her personal experience with fraud schemes allows her to help other families recognize manipulation tactics and protect themselves from financial exploitation. "Every day, I work with people who were victimized the same way I victimized our family," she told me during a recent conversation. "It keeps me accountable and reminds me why I can never go back to that life." She's been dating someone she met in financial recovery counseling, a man who understands addiction patterns and supports her commitment to honest living. They're planning to move in together next year, a relationship built on transparency and mutual accountability. Last Sunday, we gathered for family dinner at my parents' house. The same dining room where Amanda's manipulation schemes began now hosts celebrations of genuine family progress. Dad's pot roast tradition continues, but our conversations focus on authentic sharing rather than crisis management. "You know what I learned through all this," Mom said as we cleared dishes together. "Real family support means helping people become their best selves, not enabling them to avoid consequences." Amanda nodded agreement while loading the dishwasher. "And real gratitude means appreciating people who care enough to say no when you're heading in wrong directions." As I drove home that evening, I reflected on the journey from manipulation to recovery. Amanda's crimes had damaged our family financially and emotionally, but the healing process had ultimately made us stronger and more honest with each other. The most important lesson I learned was that family loyalty doesn't mean accepting destructive behavior. True love sometimes requires setting boundaries and refusing to enable patterns that harm everyone involved. If you've ever found yourself in a situation where family members were pressuring you to enable someone's irresponsible behavior, what helped you stand firm in your boundaries? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Sometimes, we all need reminders that saying no to family manipulation isn't selfish. It's necessary for everyone's well-being. And if this story resonated with you, or might help someone else recognize manipulation patterns in their own family, please like this video, subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming difficult family situations, and share it with anyone who might benefit from understanding the difference between family support and family enabling. Thank you for listening, and remember, the most loving thing you can do sometimes is refuse to participate in someone else's self-destruction. Take care, and I'll see you in the next story.